Cruelty often hides behind the smiling faces of family, and when a beautiful, ambitious young woman mocked her older sister for being curvy and ordinary, she had no idea that destiny had already chosen a terrifyingly powerful man for that quiet woman, a man who ruled the shadows of New York and who would soon make the entire city regret ever looking down on her. The Bennett family occupied a delicate place among Manhattan's wealthy elite. They were rich enough to maintain appearances, but not rich enough to stop worrying about money. At the center of their dreams was 24-year-old Sophia Bennett. Beautiful, slim, and fiercely ambitious, Sophia dreamed of marrying into old money and becoming part of high society. Her parents adored her and treated her as the family's greatest achievement. But her older sister, Isabella Bennett, was completely different. At 26, Isabella was gentle, quiet, and naturally curvy. While Sophia relied on charm and appearances, Isabella preferred peace and simplicity. Her thick, dark hair was usually tied up carelessly, and she had long stopped trying to force herself into impossible beauty standards. Instead, she had learned to accept herself, even though her family never truly did. Isabella worked as a senior restoration specialist at Heritage Archives, a small but prestigious antiquities shop hidden in Tribeca. She spent her days restoring ancient books and preserving forgotten history. The peaceful work kept her away from the toxic atmosphere inside the Bennett apartment, but escaping Sophia entirely was impossible. 3 days before the prestigious Midsummer Charity Gala, Isabella returned home after work. The scent of old paper still clung to her coat when her mother, Margaret Bennett, stopped her. "Isabella, come quickly. Your sister needs your opinion." Inside the living room, expensive gowns and stressed seamstresses filled the room. Standing proudly on a velvet platform was Sophia, wearing a custom silver dress that hugged her thin figure perfectly. Sophia looked at her older sister through the mirror and narrowed her eyes. "You look exhausted, Isabella. Have you been eating pastries again?" Isabella forced a small smile. "I had a busy day, Sophia. The dress looks beautiful." She turned to leave, but Sophia stepped down from the platform and blocked her path. "What are you wearing to the gala?" she asked with fake concern. "Please don't tell me you're wearing that old green velvet dress again." "It's the only one I have," Isabella answered quietly. "Mom insisted I attend." Sophia moved closer and lowered her voice. "Look at yourself, Isabella. You're trying to fit into clothes meant for someone half your size. It's embarrassing." Then she gently patted Isabella's waist with cruel pity. "No powerful man wants a chubby woman. That's just reality. Stay near the catering tables and avoid the photographs." The words pierced Isabella's heart, but she refused to cry. Tears had never softened Sophia's cruelty. "I'll stay out of your way," she whispered. Back in her room, Isabella stared at her reflection. She saw her soft curves and natural figure. She wasn't unhealthy. She loved hiking and yoga, but inside the Bennett household, not being a size 0 felt like a crime. Pushing away the pain, she changed clothes and returned to Heritage Archives. A mysterious client had delivered a severely damaged 19th-century leather journal earlier that morning, and Isabella wanted to continue restoring it. At almost 9 o'clock, she sat alone beneath the warm light of her desk lamp, carefully separating fragile pages. Suddenly, the bell above the door rang. The store was closed slowly. Isabella looked up. 2 men stood at the entrance. The larger one remained near the door, built like a giant in an expensive suit. But it was the man standing in front who stole her breath. He was over 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered and impossibly handsome. His charcoal overcoat fit him perfectly, while a faint silver scar on his face only added to his dangerous charm. But his dark eyes were unforgettable, cold, powerful, predatory. This was Adrian Romano, the man who controlled the most feared empire hidden beneath New York's glamorous surface, and his eyes were locked entirely on Isabella. Romano walked slowly through the maze of antique shelves, his presence alone making the room feel colder. Isabella swallowed nervously. "Can I help you?" she asked softly. Adrian stopped beside her desk and glanced at the damaged leather journal. "I see my family's property is in capable hands," he said in a deep voice that demanded attention without ever being raised. Isabella blinked in surprise. "This journal belongs to you." "My grandfather wrote it," Adrian replied calmly. Relieved to focus on work instead of his overwhelming presence, Isabella explained the restoration process. She described the water damage, the fragile pages, and the weeks of careful work that still remained. Adrian listened closely, but while she talked about ancient paper and ink, he found himself studying something far more fascinating. The messy bun, the shy smile, the oversized sweater that couldn't hide the beautiful curves she tried so hard to conceal in a world full of artificial women desperate for attention. Isabella felt refreshingly real, soft, warm, beautiful. 3 more weeks? Adrian asked. At least, Isabella answered. He repeated her name slowly. Isabella, for some reason. Hearing his voice say her name made her heart race. Suddenly, Adrian reached toward her face. Isabella froze. But instead of touching the journal, his thumb gently brushed her cheek. "You have gold dust here," he murmured. Her cheeks instantly turned red. "Thank you." Adrian stared at the blush spreading across her face, and something strange settled inside his chest. Possessiveness. He had only come to inspect an old journal. Instead, he had found a woman who looked like a masterpiece, hidden beneath years of loneliness. "Will I see you at the Midsummer Gala this Friday?" Adrian asked. The painful memory of Sophia's insults returned immediately. No man wants a chubby woman. Stay near the catering tables. Stay out of the photographs. "I'll be there," Isabella answered quietly. "But I usually stay in the background." Adrian's expression darkened slightly. He stepped closer until only inches separated them. "The background," he said softly, his eyes fixed on hers, "is no place for a masterpiece." And with those words, the most feared man in New York walked away, completely unaware that in just 3 days, the entire city would witness who truly belonged beside him. 3 days later, the grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers and New York's elite. Tonight was supposed to be Sophia Bennett's night. Dressed in her custom silver gown, she stood proudly beside her fiancé, Ethan Walker, enjoying the attention of wealthy guests and powerful investors. Meanwhile, Isabella stood quietly near the champagne station. She wore the same emerald velvet dress she had owned for years. Though it beautifully highlighted her warm eyes and graceful curves, Isabella felt painfully self-conscious. For 2 hours, she tried to remain invisible. Then suddenly, Sophia appeared, holding a champagne glass and surrounded by her friends. She smirked cruelly. "What are you doing over here?" she asked loudly. "Just getting some air," Isabella answered calmly. Sophia laughed. "Well, maybe there would be more space if you didn't take up so much of it." Several guests giggled. Even Ethan lowered his eyes and stayed silent. Humiliation burned inside Isabella, but Sophia wasn't finished. "I told you to stay out of sight," she hissed. "You look ridiculous in that dress." "Honestly, Isabella, you're embarrassing this family." Their mother, Margaret, rushed over, but instead of defending her older daughter, she looked helplessly at Isabella. "Please go wait near the coat area," she whispered. "You're upsetting your sister." Those words hurt more than anything. Sophia smiled proudly. "Like I said before," she announced, "no man wants a chubby woman." Silence filled the room. Tears gathered in Isabella's eyes. She was about to leave. Then suddenly, boom! The enormous ballroom doors flew open with such force that everyone froze. Conversations stopped. Music died. Every head turned toward the entrance, and standing there, surrounded by 4 enormous bodyguards, was Adrian Romano, the most powerful and feared man in New York. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, he looked less like a businessman and more like a king. His cold eyes scanned the room, then stopped, directly on Isabella. And when he saw the tears shining in her eyes, something terrifying awakened inside him. Adrian Romano began walking. The crowd parted instantly. No one dared stand in his way. Sophia's cruel smile disappeared and was replaced by excitement. Quickly fixing her hair, she stepped forward with her brightest smile. "Mr. Romano, what an honor. I'm Sophia Bennett. Move!" The single word cracked through the ballroom like thunder. Adrian never even looked at her. His eyes remained fixed on Isabella. Sophia froze in disbelief. Then Adrian's bodyguard gently pushed Sophia and Ethan aside, clearing the path. Gasps echoed around the room. Adrian stopped in front of Isabella. The rest of the world disappeared. He raised his hand and softly wiped away the tear resting on her cheek. "I told you," he said. his deep voice filling the silent ballroom. The background is no place for a masterpiece. Isabella's heart pounded wildly. Adrian, his eyes softened. Who made you cry, my light? Fear spread across Sophia's face. For the first time in her life, she understood she had made a terrible mistake. Adrian slowly turned toward her. The coldness in his eyes terrified everyone, but Isabella gently touched his arm. It doesn't matter, she whispered. Adrian looked back at her. Everything about you matters. Then, before the shocked guests, he reached inside his jacket and pulled out a black velvet box. The room fell silent. Opening it, he revealed a breathtaking diamond ring. Isabella Bennet, Adrian declared proudly. From this moment on, the entire city will know exactly how precious you are. With trembling hands, Isabella allowed him to place the ring on her finger, and as cameras flashed around them, Adrian kissed her hand lovingly. Come with me, he whispered. Leave this cruelty behind. 6 months later, Isabella Romano sat beside her husband, not hiding in anyone's shadow. She had found something far more valuable than wealth. She had found a man who never asked her to become smaller. He simply built his entire world around the woman she already was, because true love never asks you to shrink. It gives you the courage to shine. वीडियो में आपको क्या सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा? कमेंट में ज़रूर बताएं और जाते जाते चैनल को भी सब्सक्राइब कर दें।